Hello everyone, I am Grand Royson. Welcome to new video, Light Novel Volume 5, Summary, Chapter 5, The first day of the sports festival arrives. All the students gather for the opening ceremony. The preparations for the festival include medical staff, tents for each of the teams, and cameras set up to help with judgment calls for every event. The first event is the 100-meter dash. Out of a total of 10 groups, Kiyotaka will be running in the 7th group. Sudō runs in the first group and easily takes first place. When it's the 7th group's turn, Kiyotaka comes in 5th while Hirata comes in 1st. Afterwards, Kiyotaka notices Sudō's absence and sees him approaching Koenji. Hirata notices as well and moves to intervene. Kiyotaka follows. Koenji claims he is not feeling well so he won't be participating, which makes Sudō angry enough to try and punch him. Koenji blocks it, and Hirata manages to break up their fight before it can escalate further. They return to Class D's tent where one of the first-year girls' groups for the 100-meter dash has just finished. Eri Sakura comes off the track and asks Kiyotaka if he was watching her. He wasn't, but he tells her that she did well. The last group of first-year girls begins lining up. It includes Suzune, as well as Mio Ibuki from Class C. Their race ends with Suzune winning by a small margin. Once all the results for the first year's 100-meter dash are in, Kiyotaka mentions Koenji to Suzune, as well as her attempts to persuade him to participate. They watch Manabu Horikita take first place in his group for this event, and once all the groups are finished, the total points for each team are announced, and the red team comes out ahead. The hurdle race is the next event. Kiyotaka is in the same group as Ryuji Kanzaki this time, and Kanzaki remarks that he's heard from Ichinose that Kiyotaka is quite fast. Kiyotaka denies this, reminding him of his ranking in the 100-meter dash, but Kanzaki says he doesn't think Kiyotaka was taking it seriously. The race starts, and Kanzaki ends up taking first place, while Kiyotaka ends up in 3rd place. Afterwards, Kiyotaka exchanges a brief word with Yukimura, who struggles with sports and is anxious about his results. He then moves over to watch the girls' hurdle race. Suzune is once again paired with strong competition from Class C. She finishes her hurdle race in 3rd place. The next event is Capture the Flag. Class A and Class D will be facing Class B and Class C, the latter of which consists of Ryuan leading a team of his classmates who seem fairly strong. The first match begins, with Class D and Class C on the offensive and Class A and Class B on defense. Despite Sudō's strength, he isn't enough to break through, and the first capture goes to the white team. Class D switches to defense for the second match while Class A fixes an offensive. Class C attacks again, and in the chaos, Sudō is punched and kicked several times by Class C, who makes it look natural so that no foul play is called. In the end, the white team wins the second bout of Capture the Flag as well. Next is the tug-of-war event for the boys while the girls compete in the Tamare event. The red team comes out the winner for the latter, and the tug-of-war begins. As they take their positions, Katsuragi and Masayoshi Hashimoto argue briefly about the strategy for this event. The first bout begins, and the red team wins. Ryuan then rearranges his classmates' positions along the rope, and the second bout begins, ending with the white team's victory this time. Then the third bout begins, but after some struggling, Class C suddenly lets go, and while the red team wins, they also cause most of Class A and Class D's students to fall over. While the red team takes the overall victory of the tug-of-war, their morale is low in the aftermath. Next is the obstacle course race. Sudō ends up in the same group as Shibata, but also 2 unathletic students from Class C. He takes first place once again. The 3-legged race is next for the boys while the girls' obstacle course race is still ongoing. Suzune is matched up against Class C's Mariko Yajima and Minori Kinoshita this time. She manages to overtake them during the race but repeatedly looks back at Kinoshita, and shortly before reaching the finishing line, the two seemingly collide with each other. Suzune ends up in 7th place while Kinoshita is unable to finish due to injury. Having both been watching the race, Kiyotaka and Hirata agree that Suzune's bad matchups with Class C students so far aren't just a coincidence. Kiyotaka then approaches Suzune, who is injured but insists she'll be fine with some rest. She suspects that Kinoshita had collided with her on purpose because she kept calling her name during the race. She then tells Kiyotaka to worry about himself instead since his results so far have been worse than hers. The three-legged race for the boys begins. Sudō and Kanji Ike come in first for their group. Kiyotaka and Hirata come in first for theirs. Then the girls' three-legged race begins. Suzune and Kushida pair up for it, and while they start well, they end up in the last place due to Suzune's injury from the previous event. During the break, Suzune leaves to get a compress for her injury. Kiyotaka observes the rift in Class A and asks Hirata about Sakayaneji. He then considers Class C and the damage they've already inflicted the event so far, while Class B seems to be the only ones genuinely enjoying the festival. After the break, the girls' cavalry battle begins. The four horsemen from Class C completely ignores Class A and focuses on attacking Suzune instead. Her headband is taken, and the rest of Class D is defeated shortly after, with only Karuizawa succeeding in taking one headband from the opposing team before she too loses her own. The boys' cavalry battle is next. Sudō forms a team with Kiyotaka, Akito Miyake, and Hirata. While they are able to defeat most of the white team with Class A, they run into trouble when faced with Ryuen, who manages to provoke Sudō into accepting a one-on-one challenge instead of continuing to work with Class A's team. Hirata is unable to grab Ryuen's headband from him and ends up getting his own headband taken, and the red team loses the cavalry battle. They later figure out that Ryuen had slathered his headband with hair wax to make it too slippery to grasp, but there is no evidence of foul play, and Class D is forced to accept the loss. Kiyotaka meets up with Karuizawa, who has also begun to realize that something is wrong with Suzune's matchups. Kiyotaka explains that it's not just Suzune either, the entire contents of the participation table has been leaked to Ryuen, who has countered accordingly to ensure the best results for his class while also targeting Suzune in order to destroy her. Karuizawa asks if Kiyotaka has a plan to turn things around, but while Kiyotaka confirms that everything is going according to his predictions, winning the sports festival is not something he intends Class D to do. Their conversation is interrupted by Sudō, whose temper has finally snapped. He moves to confront Ryuen, only to be stopped by Hirata. They argue, and Yukimura cuts in to accuse Sudō of getting angry with the rest of Class D when they don't get the results he wants. Hirata continues attempting to calm Sudō down, but Sudō only retaliates by punching him. Chabashira arrives and demands to know what's going on. Hirata covers for Sudō to avoid trouble, but Sudō just gets angrier, and in the end, he walks away, leaving Class D behind to fend for itself for the rest of the sports festival. The festival continues, and Sudō does not return. Ryuen stops by to taunt them, but Hirata tells him that Class D still has a few trump cards left that have not been leaked to Ryuen. Kiyotaka approaches Suzune after coming in third in the 200-meter dash. He asks her if she understands Sudō's predicament, and then asks if she'll be bringing him back. When Suzune says there is nothing she can do about him or her own situation, Kiyotaka calls her useless and explains the situation to her in more detail in an attempt to get her to understand what she should be doing now. He concludes by telling her to think about it herself, and that he will not be giving her any further advice. Lunch break begins. Hirata and Karuizawa join Kiyotaka for lunch, and the three of them discuss Ryuen's strategy so far, as well as the traitor in their midst. Hirata asks where Suzune is, and Kiyotaka confirms that she has gone to retrieve Sudō, whom they will need if they wish to stand a chance in the second half of the sports festival. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. For more, thanks you all, meet you in another video.